Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your match preview. Manchester United versus Arsenal in the Premier League. Oh boys, this is going to be this could be a very, very bad day. A very, very bad day. But we're going to get into it. We're going to give our match previews. We're going to talk about injuries again. I mean, would it be a match preview without discussing Manchester United injury list? It's ever-growing injury list. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Arsenal as well. And some stats that maybe fall into Manchester United's favour when it comes to this fixture at Old Trafford. We'll talk a little bit about it. We'll give our predicted 11 and also I'll give my score predictions as always. We're going to go through a little bit of Manchester United news as well. And I'm going to focus solely on a report coming out from Brazil. Now again, pinch of salt, like I always say when it comes to these, the legitimacy of these reports, but a big report coming out in relation to the unhappiness of Manchester United players in the dressing room with Erik ten Hag. We've heard it all before. Solskjaer, Mourinho, Van Gaal, we've been through it all already, so we'll talk about that as well. But please do smash a like on the video, guys. Hit subscribe if you are new to the channel, and as always, do get your comments into the comment section below. We've got Danny is in there already, Oshin is there, Ben is there as well. Say hello, guys, if you're in the chat as well. Good to see everybody. If there's any issues, I am abroad, so and I do understand that the Wi-Fi is not the greatest, so if there's any issues, do let me know. We're also live streaming on Twitter as well, guys, so anybody watching on Twitter, you are welcome as always. But look, let's jump straight into it and talk about this match preview. Manchester United host Arsenal in the Premier League at Old Trafford tomorrow, and look, it's going to be I mean, given how poor Manchester United have been this season, on a very consistent basis, it has to be said, and when you're coming off the back of such a, I mean, devastatingly bad performance and result against Crystal Palace last week, I mean, it has the hallmarks of an absolute rout for Manchester United, and not in their favour. So it's going to be a very, very, very difficult game. Now look, injuries. We've been talking about injuries every single game this season for Manchester United. From literally the start of the season right up to the very end, we're going to have, you know, massive amounts of injuries. Now, again, there can only be so many excuses you can put in, you know, and you know, alleviate some of the burden, you know, onto the injury list. But you've got to take responsibility as well for performances. And that comes to the players, and it does come to the manager's door as well, absolutely. The coaching staff, everybody, the medical staff, everybody involved. It just, as a whole, it hasn't been good enough for Manchester United this year. Now, look, we have got some players returning. Bruno Fernandes, Scott McTominay and Marcus Rashford, who missed the game against Crystal Palace, have all been back in training for United this week. So look, that is obviously a bonus. I think the main one there is Bruno Fernandes. I don't know what difference it really would have made against Crystal Palace last week if Bruno Fernandes had been playing. I'm sure it wouldn't, you know, I'm sure we are a better team when Bruno Fernandes is fit and available, which, you know, 99.9% of the time he is. So it's good to have Bruno back. When it comes to Scott McTominay, you know, I see Scott McTominay playing in these types of games, to be quite honest with you. You know, especially with the injuries that we've got in defence, you know, and them injuries are still there. You know, Scott McTominay, was he missed against Crystal Palace? You know, last week, I mean, a bit of physicality in the midfield wouldn't have gone astray when it comes to that performance against Palace. I think we were out-muscled, we were out-fought. The one thing I would say, and that I've always said about Scott McTominay, look, everybody knows I don't think he's good enough for Manchester United, but he always gives his all. He always works hard, and he always, you know, tries to do his best. And we didn't see that from the majority of the players on last weekend, on Monday night. So Scott McTominay being back, does he come straight into the team? I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I think he gives you that bit of height in midfield. He's also a threat from set pieces. And we know, look, this season he's got some goals to his name as well, which, you know, is good to see. Marcus Rashford is back as well. I mean, Marcus Rashford is back. Does he come straight into the team? Like, if we look at, say, if we look at the the starting 11 that played against Crystal Palace last week. I mean, our two wide players was Alejandro Garnacho and Anthony. Now, Anthony was substituted after 60 minutes for Sofian Amrabat. We've also got Amad Diallo on the bench. He came on for Mason Mount last week as well. So, does Marcus Rashford come straight back into the team? I think he probably does, if I'm being honest with you. Even though he's been having a pretty horrendous season by anybody's standards, I think we've said an awful lot this season that our strongest forward line is Garnacho, Højlund and Rashford. And that, you know, Højlund has had a purple patch in the middle of the season. Rashford has done next to nothing. And Garnacho is still young and is still a kind of a moments player, you know, fantastic quality in certain moments of the season. So the fact that that's our strongest starting forward line just goes to show maybe the lack of depth and the lack of quality that we've actually got in the squad at the moment. Albeit the likes of Garnacho and Højlund, you know, and Rashford have all got huge potential for different reasons. You know, Rashford, when he turns it on, we've seen last season 30 goals. Højlund and Garnacho are young, you know, and they need time to develop, and you would think that will come with time. So injuries, guys, you know, good to see some players coming back, but we've got Lisandro Martinez as well. He's back in training this week, which is great news. Reports suggested this week that he's desperate to play against Arsenal on the weekend. I think that lad would play a kick around out on the street. You know, if there was a six-a-side going on, he'd want to get involved. But Erik ten Hag has said no, it's too soon. And I think it's the right call, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, we've got an FA Cup final to look forward to. I don't know if that's really the right way of saying it. But we want him to be fit for that. You know, we really do. So I think maybe this game is coming a little bit too soon. But I do think he should be getting some game time before that FA Cup final, whether that be against Newcastle or Brighton. Before, you know, we go into that big game against Man City. But the big talking point, guys, is Mason Mount is out again. He's out with another injury again. I was trying to find the article, but I couldn't find it in relation to how long he's actually going to be out for. Maybe someone in the chat can let me know. But yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty horrendous first season at Manchester United for Mason Mount, and it you know, it just goes to show you know, the issues that we're having is, I don't know, and it's hard for a fan to put their finger on the reasons why these injuries are happening. Speaking to my dad last night about it, he has a feeling that some of them are pulling out with injuries just because they don't want to play in games. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do know it's happened in the past, but I don't necessarily agree with it, to be quite honest with you. I don't think Erik ten Hag would have any player near his squad if they'd done something like that. But yeah, I mean, Mason Mount has missed the majority of the season with injuries now, and you know, even the time that he did have back, he didn't have enough time back to actually get a chance to hold down a position in the team. So he's out again, and it's desperately disappointing. Let's see what people have to say in the chat. I'll get your comments in, guys. Oshin says, serious question, is it our training, our medical staff, bad luck, or just players hiding? I think, you know, when you've got, you would say a large enough squad that United have got, I think it's a combination of everything there that you're mentioning, Oshin. I think it could be training. I think it could be medical staff, bad luck. I think it certainly is bad luck. I mean, when you look at the likes of Lisandro Martinez's two injuries, I mean, they were two desperate pieces of bad luck. And players hiding, I think it could potentially be that as well. I do think also last season has had a massive part to play on it. Ever since COVID ended, which is what, we're talking 2 years ago now, there's been a kind of a density of games, and I think last season, like I said, we could have only played a maximum of 3 more games last season, you know, given the fact that we got so far in every competition. And I thought pre-season, I've said this before, I thought pre-season was a huge mistake, having it so long and having so many games in different cities in the US, an awful lot of travelling. I think Christian Eriksen came out in an interview in pre-season and said it's been unbelievably difficult. He said you don't have time to settle, get your feet on the ground. He said because you're training, you're playing the game, and the next day you're gone. And I think that was a big mistake as well. And I think that certainly does have a part to play. Coupled with the fact that we've got a lot of players over the age of 30. And a lot of these players are the players that are getting injured. You know, we've seen Casemiro injured. Varane is out again. Harry Maguire has missed large amounts of this. Well, not large amounts, but he's missed portions of the season. Luke Shaw has been injury prone. He's basically missed, the whole season. So, I mean, I think there's an awful lot of factors to play. Darryl is there as well. Neverworld is in. Donald says, I think Eric Ten Hag should just let the youngsters loose, see what they're made of. Look, I get your point, Donald. I really do. And my point here with this is, and, it would be great to let all the youngsters go out and play. It really would. But if you've got players, senior players, who, let's say, are coming back from injury and are not up to speed yet to go back and play in the Premier League, I don't see how you would be able to take a bunch of 18-year-olds and put them into the Premier League, the pace of it, when they've never experienced it before. I don't think it's a viable option. I really, really don't. And you got to be very careful with a lot of these youngsters as well. The majority of young players that come through the academy don't make it in the first team. Now, they do go on to have very successful careers, an awful lot of them, in the game. But you put a player into a Premier League game too soon, he gets ripped to pieces, his confidence is gone. That could literally end his career. You know what I mean? It literally could. So you've got to be very careful with it as well. And again, we're talking about results here. We've still got the Europa League to try and qualify for. And we've also got, the FA Cup. So, if you're going to play a lot of youngsters in the Premier League in the last 3 games, are you going to play them in the FA Cup final? Because if you're not, then you're also going to have a squad of players who haven't played in 3 weeks that are going to go into an FA Cup final cold. So, you do have to find the balance there as well. Neverworld says, it would have made a bit of difference if we'd lost 4-1 instead of 4-0. Danny says, I'm actually annoyed that Marcus Rashford is back from injury because Ten Hag keeps playing favourites to him, so he will walk back into the team. He should be dropped and made fight for his place. Oshin says, Declan Rice, Odegaard, Partey are going to dominate and decimate our midfield. Genuinely worried. He also says Rashford turning into the new Lingard, ? Plenty of potential. He's 26, should be in his prime now, or at least working towards coming into his prime. Still not having potential. Yeah. Well, look, I think this time last year we would be saying that Marcus Rashford, right, bang, he's in his prime now, 30 goals, brilliant, happy days. He just hasn't kicked on. Look, Marcus Rashford will be here next season. Do I think we should sell him? I think if the right offer came in, I think we should. But I don't see who's going to offer us probably 70 to 80 million for him and give him 300,000+ a week. PSG have cooled their interest. So he's going to be here next season. So he's going to get another season to prove himself. Or I think this time next year we will be talking about him absolutely going. Because I don't think the likes of Ineos, Barada, Wilcox, Dan Ashworth are going to hang on to a player who's not performing. I really don't. Especially when his contract is running down as well. Neverworld says, every time I call a scoreline, it ends up the opposite. So I'm saying Arsenal win about 4-1 today because I cannot see us doing anything in this game. But yeah, let's talk about Arsenal a little bit. Because, look, I mean, Manchester United going into this game, again with injuries that we've got, it's compounded by the fact that Arsenal actually have a clean bill of health for the first time this season going into this game. And I think Jurriën Timber is actually in contention to make the first team squad on the weekend. So Arsenal have got a full bill of health, which is typical, when they're coming to Old Trafford. And look, they're in scintillating form at the moment, you would have to say. But it's a huge game for Arsenal as well, because obviously they're in a massive title race between them and Manchester City. They are currently top of the table, a point ahead of Man City, but City play, I think City play today, do they? I don't know what day I have. When you're on holidays, time ceases to exist. They actually are. They're playing this afternoon at 12:30. So if City win away to Fulham this morning, they actually go top on equal games with, I think, 2 points ahead of. Yeah, 2 points ahead of Arsenal. So Arsenal obviously will have to beat us to go back ahead of City. Look, it's in Manchester City's hands. If they win their final 3 league games, they will win the league. So it's a huge game for Arsenal. You would expect, I mean, if City win today, that will put them on 85 points, 2 points ahead of Arsenal. Arsenal will then play us. And let's say we beat them, for example. City will be... Yeah, City will be 2 points ahead with a game in hand, so they would only have to win one of their last 2 games to win the league. So, yeah, I mean, it's a huge, huge game for Arsenal. But, look, it's one that I think everybody is expecting Arsenal to win. It really is. Everybody is expecting Arsenal to win. You know, but I think a lot of Manchester United fans, of course the Arsenal fans are full of confidence given how well their team has played. I don't like Arsenal. Would I prefer them to win the league over Manchester City? Yes, I would. There's pros and cons to both. You know, where I'm from in Ireland, there's very few Manchester City fans, so you wouldn't have to listen to anybody. But obviously, you would have the fact that City have won 4 in a row. On the flip side, I do know quite a lot of Arsenal fans, and they tend to get carried away a little bit. But I would prefer to see Arsenal win the league. Now, history sometimes plays a part in these games, and obviously Arsenal are heavy favourites going into this game, but they've only left Old Trafford with 3 points once in their last 16 visits, a run which also includes 10 defeats. So we've got history on our side. Okay, I think that's all. Come on, lads, please. I think that's all we can really cling on to. You know what I mean? Old Trafford is not a happy hunting ground for Arsenal over the last 10 to 15 years. So that's, you know, the positives that we can take going into this game. But other than that, Arsenal are huge favourites. So, look, the one thing I would say about Manchester United is that, specifically this season, is that we tend to up our game for the big games more so than, you know, the mid-table games. We are a mid-table team at the moment. We're currently in 8th. So, yeah, I mean, we need to be on it. We need to be on it, or we're going to get an absolute hammering. And I think from Erik ten Hag's perspective as well, can he afford another heavy defeat? You know, I mean, this could really, like, if the same performance shows up tomorrow against Arsenal than it did against Crystal Palace on Monday night, we're in for another 7-0. You know, we really are. Arsenal are that good, and they're in a really rich vein of form at the moment. So I think from Erik ten Hag's standpoint, I don't think he can afford another one like that. He wants to go at least get to manage in the FA Cup final. And there's been talks of, will he actually still be here for the FA Cup final in a couple of weeks' time? I was listening to Talk of the Devils podcast, and Laurie Whitwell was speaking that it's not a foregone conclusion that he actually will be the manager for the FA Cup final. And there was other people saying that, you know, Steve McLaren is there as his assistant. He said, this team does not look like a Steve McLaren coach team. They said Steve McLaren fingerprints are nowhere near this team because of the way they play and the way they set up. And there was some people saying that we would probably have a better chance against Man City if Steve McLaren was the interim manager for that one game. Now, I don't know what truth would be in that. I really don't. Like I said, everybody knows my thoughts on Erik ten Hag. I want him to be given time. I want him to be allowed to clear out this squad. But, yeah, I don't think we can afford another huge defeat on the weekend. And if we do get it, I think there is a possibility that Erik ten Hag doesn't last the rest of the season. I really don't. But, look, that remains to be seen. let's see what happens between now and then. Ben says, I know Rashford has had a bad season, but he used to turn up for big games. So let's just pray he has been in Belfast again. He has a good record against Arsenal as well. So, obviously all of these things come into a factor. And for an individual player as well, I think it does make a big difference, because he's saying to himself, I like playing against Arsenal. I always score against Arsenal. Wayne Rooney was the same. Chicharito, Javier Hernandez used to love playing against Chelsea. Used to always score against Chelsea. So, these things do play a part. It has to be said. Danny says, how can we beat Arsenal? We should have lost to Coventry, struggled to beat Sheffield United, should have lost to Burnley, got hammered by Palace. Not forgetting the rest of the season, we have no chance. I won't say no chance, because you always have a chance. As long as 11 players turn up, you've got a chance. Neverwhere says, if Arsenal win the league, we will hear it for the next 10 years. Oshin says, speaking of Arsenal, saw us linked with Zinchenko. He's not settled in London and wants to go back to Manchester. Money quota was 25 million. Small money, relatively speaking. Still not fight for me. No, I mean, I think we need to get away from... I mean, what age is... Zinchenko, let's have a look. He's 27, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're the kind of deals that we need to be doing, because we do need to get smart in the transfer window. So yeah, maybe it's a deal that could potentially happen. Would he play for City and United? I don't know. Would he be accepted by Manchester United fans? I don't know. They're going to make it 6 points tomorrow, says Oshin. Let's all be honest here. Neverwhere says, that hurt to hear, because it's true now more than ever. We are a mid-table team. I know. If we get spanked tomorrow more than 3, he'll be gone Monday, says Oshin, and not just scoreline, but performance. Yeah, I mean, performances, I think, are just as important now for Ten Hag than actual results, which is crazy. Ben says, if I was Ten Hag, I'd invite Fergie into the dressing room on the cup final. I was listening to Andy Goldstein on TalkSport the other day, and he was saying if Ten Hag was to be sacked, would there be a downside to bringing Ferguson back for 3 games? Let's say he was sacked after the Arsenal game tomorrow. Would you bring Ferguson back for 3 days or for 3 games and let him go into the FA Cup final? And that it would probably give us the best chance of actually beating Man City. And to be honest with you, I don't disagree with him. Now Ferguson has been out of football for 10 years, but I just think the presence and the aura of him walking into a dressing room, would inspire the players that are there. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, let me know what you think on that one. Finn says, hope United ladies can give us one good result in the FA Cup final tomorrow. Absolutely. I was actually trying to find a place to watch it here, but I don't know what time is that actually on at. Is it? It's obviously not clashing with the United game, I don't think. But yeah. But anyway, but yeah, guys, predicted 11. Let me know your predicted 11 in the comment section, or areas that you would potentially look to change or anything like that. Now, look, when it comes to the starting 11, I think it's I think the back four, centre back in particular, is the big area of concern, and it has been for a number of games now. Obviously, Harry Maguire is out for a few weeks. We know Alessandro Martinez is close to return, but he won't be making this game. So, obviously, it's going to be Andre Onana in goal for me. My predicted 11, I'm going to go, obviously, Delo and Wan-Bissaka are our only 2 fullbacks, so they're going to play as well. I think it's going to be Casemiro and Johnny Evans again. I don't see what else we can do there. I really don't, unless you take Evans out or Casemiro out and put in somebody like Scott McTominay just for sheer height, because he's back and available. I don't know, but I think with the pace that Arsenal have, I think we're really going to struggle if it's Casemiro and Johnny Evans. I really do. We've seen it against Palace. Elise, Mateta and Eze just ripped us to shreds in them kind of inside channels. Johnny Evans for the second goal, for example. Look, it's not his fault. He's 36 years of age. You can't keep up with a 23-year-old. You just can't. So, but I think it's going to be Casemiro, Johnny Evans, Wan-Bissaka and Delo. In midfield then, I cannot see how Christian Eriksen can play. I don't think he can. And I feel sorry for Christian Eriksen, because there's such a very brilliant footballer in there, a great footballer in there. But legs and physicality play a huge part here. So I think he's going to drop out, and I think Scott McTominay is going to come back in. So for me, it's Scott McTominay, Kobbie Mainoo, and Bruno Fernandes, who of course is back as well. And the forward line then, again, there can be question marks over whether you're bringing in Rashford or you're leaving him on the bench after he was missing the last day. Anthony done nothing and was substituted on. Anthony would be the. There's three players that can play. Okay, obviously Garnacho is definitely going to start, but there's three other players that can potentially play on the wing. That's Rashford, Anthony, and Ahmad. Anthony is my last choice. I'm sick of him. I'm just sick of him. I'm sick of his attitude. I'm sick of how he carries himself. You know, like, and Carragher, I don't agree with Jamie Carragher an awful lot, but he whispering behind his mouth coming off the pitch after a 4-0 defeat. I agreed with Carragher. Just get down the tunnel. Get off the fucking field. He just annoys me. Everything about him annoys me. So I think Rashford is going to come back in. I think Rashford goes straight back in, probably on the left-hand side. Garnacho goes back over onto the right. And to be honest with you, I don't think Garnacho has done enough on the left-hand side in the few games that he's got there. So I think it's probably right that he's maybe moved over onto that right-hand side. And then, of course, Rasmus Højlund. But look, again, it could be Ahmad that comes in. I don't think Ahmad... I think he does deserve probably a start, you know what I mean? But again, I mean, the games that he has played for us, he's done next to nothing, you know what I mean? He scored a great goal against Liverpool, you know, a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago, whatever it was. But I don't think he's done next to enough to garner a place in the starting 11 consistently either. So I think it's going to be Rashford, Garnacho, and Højlund. So that's my starting lineup. But yeah, let's see what you guys think here as well. Laser is in. He says, morning folks, hope we're all well. Thanks for joining us, pal. Appreciate it. Oshin says, Onana, Delo, Casemiro, Evans, Wan-Bissaka, McTominay, Mainoo, Fernandes, Rashford, Anthony, Højlund. Yeah, same as me. Danny says, Onana, Delo, Wan-Bissaka, Casemiro, Evans, Mainoo, Bruno, McTominay, Garnacho, Ahmad, and Rasmus Højlund. So one change there for Danny. Oshin says, heard Evans failed a fitness test before Palace, but Erik ten Hag asked him to play, which is why he literally couldn't move for the second goal. Yeah, look, again, I mean, these kind of stories coming out are just typical of the injuries we've had this season. Casemiro dropped for Brazil, career fell off a cliff at United, says Finn. Well, who's to blame for that? I mean, we haven't changed our tactics, we haven't changed our way of playing, and he was scintillating for us last year. So, yeah. Anthony has the cockiness of prime Messi and the ball skills of a prime minister. has to be the first to go. But yeah, look, score predictions. Let me know your score predictions in the comment section, guys. I mean, when it comes to a score prediction, look, I want Manchester United to win like I always do. I mean, Jesus Christ, especially against the likes of Arsenal. But I can't see us winning. I don't think we're going to win. I think it's going to be a very comfortable day for Arsenal. And I think it's going to be a very difficult day for Manchester United. I think the likelihood of us getting another 3, 4, even 5-0 hammering is quite realistic. It really is. Heart, 1-0 to United, snatch and grab. Head, 3-0 to Arsenal. I think Arsenal have a very easy day at Old Trafford. I think, I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. But I don't think we're going to threaten them at all. I think it's going to be a very easy morning, or a very easy afternoon for Arsenal. Yeah, and I think the pressure is going to continue to mount on this Manchester United team and on this Manchester United manager. So yeah, but again, I hope I'm wrong. And Arsenal for life is in right on time. You've got to promise me. You know, you're always here when we're losing. So if we win tomorrow, just show up. Just show up. Because of course you'll show up if you win. So if we win, be a man or a woman. I don't know if you're a man or a woman. Doesn't really matter. Just show up. Just show up. But yeah, I think it's going to be an easy day for Arsenal. I think it's going to be 3-0, and that's the way I see it. That's the way I see it, unfortunately. Guys, I want to move it on a little bit for the last few minutes. And I want to talk about a report coming out from Premier League Brazil. Now, again, look, pinch of salt, like I always say when it comes to these, the legitimacy of these reporters. Again, I don't know. I've never heard of these before, but it's obviously an outlet that covers the Premier League, for Brazil. But they have had a pretty damning report in relation to the Manchester United dressing room and the lack of faith that it has in Erik ten Hag. Now, before we go through some of these, I'll put them up on the screen. We've heard all of this before. We've heard it under Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, even Rangnick. We've heard it all before. All of these same reports are generated end of second season when things are going wrong, So anyway, look, the report says some of Manchester United players prefer to consult a private specialist or ignore the injury rather than opting for treatment from the club's medical team. The poor performance of the medical staff is pointed out as another cause of the recurrent injuries this season. So this is in relation to the injuries. Now, again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to these injuries. And we did have, I can never think of the guy's name, but he's only last summer signed from Arsenal, the head of, he's the new the head of the medical department. And by all accounts, he's doing a full kind of review of the medical team throughout the entirety of this season. I hope that means that there is changes coming, because I mean, it's unprecedented, the amount of it. Now, look, the one thing I would say as well is that we're not the only team and the only club with massive amount of injuries this season. Chelsea have had a lot. Newcastle have had an awful lot of injuries as well. I do think there is an accumulation of, fixtures and so on and so forth. I don't think it's all down to the medical team. I really don't. But again, when you're hearing about players not wanting to basically do what they're told. We've heard these kind of reports before. Now, the same report also says that the way Erik ten Hag deals with personal situations at Manchester United is not liked by the club's leaders. There is also an opinion in the United locker room that ten Hag does not have enough experience to manage a club the size of Manchester United. Now, we've heard this before, haven't we, with the likes of Ralph Rangnick. We've heard it even with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. And it's the same. Now, again, I'll go through. There's two more that I want to read out before we go on, and then I give my opinion on it. The next one says that the way Erik ten Hag approaches preparing for matches is the subject of complaints in the Manchester United dressing room. He has a habit of holding tactical meetings before each game in an unusual way. They tend to be long, lasting 30 to 40 minutes, and are repeated 3 or 4 times weekly, a frequency that bothers and surprises the locker room. And finally, it says, many Manchester United players blame Erik ten Hag for the excessive amount of injuries this season. According to some, he makes mistakes in maintaining the same training load throughout the season, even if the accumulated fatigue is much greater in the final stretch. Exhaustive sessions, cancellation of days off, and complaints about training have been relevant topics at United for a while. He blows everyone up, supposedly. Now, again, the main part of this last one, cancellation of days off. If you want your days off, then go out onto the fucking pitch and win football matches and stop complaining about it. The first thing I want to say when it comes to these kinds of reports is that it seems like every manager gets this. It's like a copy and paste, it's like a timeline. Each Manchester United manager gets a timeline of articles, and for the first 2 seasons, and we're at the end of the second season now. It's when these reports start to be generated, so the legitimacy of these actual reports remains to be seen. I don't know if I believe all of these. I think it's very easy for these reports to be generated, and all of a sudden the fan base turns. The fucking players are a disgrace, the manager's a disgrace. Divide and conquer, pretty much. Because what happens? That sells headlines, it sells newspapers. You click, you subscribe, all of these kind of things. So the legitimacy of these reports, again, remains to be seen. Is there some truth behind it? I think there could be. I'm sure that there are players within the dressing room that are not happy with certain aspects of the way Erik ten Hag, goes about managing the team. But tough fucking shit. Tough shit. You're a player. He's the coach. He's in charge. You do what he tells you. You turn up when he tells you. You go to bed when he tells you. And you fucking eat what he tells you. And if it doesn't work, then he's to blame. Simple as that. You know what I mean? So, again, what I want more than anything else is, for once, we stick with a manager. And that is the biggest message to the players, that ye are not going to dominate this dressing room. And ye are not going to decide whether a manager stays or goes. And all of these reports coming out about, we don't like his methods, we don't like how much he makes us train, we don't like his, tactical meetings. There's this big message sent to them players saying, ye are not in charge. We are sticking with this manager and he's in charge. And he gets to decide whether you play or not. You fucking eat when he tells you to eat. You go to bed when he tells you when to go to bed. You do on the training ground what he tells you to do. And you do on the pitch what he tells you to do. And over the course of a season, if you do not do that, then you're out the door. He's not out the door. And I think we need to do that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons for sticking with Erik ten Hag this season, is we need a manager to have a little bit of control over the dressing room over a sustained period of time, rather than the other way around. Because for too long now, it's been player power and, players downing tools. And that eventually has got managers sacked. And I think we need to change that mentality now, and we need to change that mindset. So for that reason alone, I think Erik ten Hag, give him one more season and let him clear out as much of the dead wood in the summer as he possibly can. That's what I would say. But again, let me know what you guys think. What you guys think here now. Let's see. Laser says, personally, I would start the same lineup as we played against Palace. Only changes are I would replace Eriksson for Bruno and replace Anthony with Ahmad. And I would like to see Wheatley get time. Neverworld says, the players give up on the manager and then they're sacked, and then the new manager is in. It happens with every manager since Moyes, absolutely. Danny says, I'll never use the injuries card for why Man United are having a poor season or why Erik ten Hag is failing. Injuries are part of football, but 65 injuries is a complete joke. Oshin says, it's like a generic copy and paste letter, just insert new name here. Absolutely. Laser said, thing is, we still sadly have those can't be arsed players still in the team, and we need them gone. I don't blame any of the youngsters. They're the only ones that perform. It's a joke. Finn says, it's the same with anything. If it's going well, nobody cares what's going on behind the scenes. Man says, we could not even stop the treble, nor will stop the double. So let Arsenal stop the double. Let them smash us. I don't know what kind of Manchester United fan you are if you want a team to come to Old Trafford and smash us, because that's just nonsense. Sorry. Neverworld says, football is a profession where you have to live and breathe it on and off the pitch. So yeah, your coach is still in charge when you're not on the pitch. Absolutely. Laser says, this gives me vibes of Mourinho. If anyone remembers, players used to refuse to go to training because they claimed his training was too much. Rashford, Lingard and Pogba were examples. Exactly. And then when it came to Solskjaer, training wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? It wasn't intense enough. So the phenom is in. He says, you could be right, mate. We're in a rebuild anyway, so why not keep the manager and upgrade the squad? Absolutely. It gives the biggest and the clearest message to this squad. We're sticking with this manager. We're not sticking with you, with the players. We're sticking with the manager. And I think that would be more beneficial in the long term. Player power is a problem that needs to be stopped, says Danny. And Man says, Erik ten Hag won't do anything. Stop expecting from him. Use your footy IQ and know he is a failure. And he also says, if you still think Eric Ten Hag is a footy manager, then you start watching beach volleyball. Well, I call it football, not footy, so you know what I mean. Anyway, lads, I think we'll leave it there. I enjoyed it. Please do smash the like button if you haven't already done so. And do hit the subscribe button as well. I am going to be live for the game tomorrow night as well. We'll be doing a watch along for it. Old Man UCC will be joining us as well. My dad will be. We're in Spain, obviously, on a family holiday. So we're going to find a little bar to watch it. We'll go live. He'll be there as well. The last time we were on holidays together was Italy. And we got smashed 6-3 by Manchester City. So, yeah, maybe he is a bad luck omen, but let's hope not. But anyway, I do appreciate you watching, guys. Smash a like in the video, hit subscribe if you haven't done so. Hope to see you all tomorrow. Again, like I said, for tomorrow, because I'll be working off of my phone, I'll just be going live within a half an hour of the game. There'll be no thumbnail up or anything like that. So just turn on your notifications. As soon as we go live on YouTube, you get notified and come in and join us. But until tomorrow, have a great day, and I'll chat to you soon.